Hello and welcome back to our little series about character selection in Unreal Engine. In the last episode, we've managed to not only change the skeletal mesh of the character, give him a different appearance, but we also managed to change the material programmatically so that the characters all wear different outfits. In fact, they had quite distinguishing features, so all of a sudden the hair color changes and, the blazer color and the dress color changes. Very exciting stuff. Let me show you. We've made that happen at the touch of a button with the 1, 2, 3, and 4 keys. So if this is our character, we press 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the character remains the same, but the material on the character changes. The Cinti guys, depending on which pack you've bought, they usually include a lot of variation in their characters. So we can go and do this 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we have 8 other textures that are essentially variations of this. So same woman with the same color outfit, but with a different skin tone and sometimes a different hair color. And that's what these other materials are for. So currently we've been dealing with 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A. And now we're going to be dealing with 1B and 1C for the first variation, and 2C and 2B and so forth, those variations. So we're going to follow a similar logic that we had for changing the actual outfit, but we're going to go one step further and we're going to make a little lookup table that has a look at which outfit are we currently wearing, and then we're going to pick the next one dependent on that. Let me show you what happens when we don't do that. Let's just start by basically exactly where we started earlier. This was the switch logic graph. These things now change the outfit. Let's comment that. Change outfits. And each of this is an action that calls a function. The function does this. Function goes and passes in a different material and adds it to the mesh. That's more or less exactly what we're going to do for this logic. So let's go create ourselves another function, first of all. And we're going to call that change skin tone. And much like before, we need to know what skin tone we want to go to. So we're going to give this function an input over here. Input in this case, I'm just going to call that one. What are we going to call that one? Maybe type. Skin type. That's good. And this isn't going to be a material. This is now going to be a string. And that string is just going to be A, B, C. A, B, or C, really. Yeah, that's because that's all we have. A, B, or C. Corresponding to the last letter of the material itself. So texture or 1A, B, or C, or 2A, B, or C. So what we'll do now is, well, yeah, actually, let's hook it up as if we, just like we did it before here. And go grab a reference to our mesh, first of all. And on it, we're now going to go, just like before, set a material. And the material, well, yeah, actually we've given it a type now. Let's not hook up the type just yet and just pick the material from here. And we'll say, for the sake of this argument, well, we're going to make this function just change it to the 1B material. We're going to amend that in a moment here. Let's go ahead and set those keys up. So I'm thinking if we had 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the outfit, maybe 5, 6, and 7 for the skin tone. Let's do that under project settings. Under input, much like we had it for these guys, action mappings, 1, 2, 3 more. And I'll call that skin 1. Or actually even better, I'm going to call that skin A, B, and C. How's that? Skin A, skin B, and skin C. And those keys, just like before, we're going to search for the keyboard key number 5. Here we go with keyboard key number 6 and keyboard key number 7. And we'll map that to the gamepad later on as well. Great. So then under the switch logic, we're going to go and grab one of those and call that skin A. Well, skin A is kind of already set up because that's kind of the default skin, but let's go and pick skin B here and go and pick skin B, just for the sake of argument. So that's our number 6 key. And if we go and call this function now, this is going to be change, I always mistype that, change skin tone. We're going to pass, in a moment, we're going to pass a parameter in there. Let's call it B for now. And that's really it. So if we go and run this program now, then what, I often make that mistake. Let's go play that here, click that, F11 makes it full screen. If we go and press number 5 now, nothing happens. We'll press number 6 now, the character changes. But not only did her skin tone change, the outfit also changed. And that's not really what we want. So let's do this again, maybe with the first character here. We're giving him that, and we're going to go and change this to, nope, that doesn't work. It's going to have to go start this whole thing again. But you see what happened there. The skin tone changed, but also the outfit changed. And that's not good. So if I go and press number 6 now, she wears a gray suit all of a sudden, and that's not really what I want. I want to see what outfit is she wearing right now, look that up, and then replace the material dependent on that. And that's not actually that easy to do, but it's just one of those finishing touches that really makes or breaks a project. So I'll show you where to do that. So really what we need to do in our function here, change skin tone, is we need to grab that string and we need to query the mesh and see what is currently on that mesh, and then make a little amendment to that file name, pass it to something called a map variable, which is then our little mini database for looking things up, and then we'll go and amend that string, grab the equivalent material of that outfit with a different skin tone from that map, and then we're going to pass it to our mesh. It sounds more complicated than it really is. So really what I'm going to do is say the character is currently displaying this texture, map polygon city texture all1A. I'd like to retain that and give it skin tone B, and then basically take this whole name, chop A off, and amend B at the end and turn that into a new material. Does that make sense? I'm just going to show you what we're going to do here. And trust me when I say it works. So we're going to grab the reference to our mesh, and we're going to grab a reference now from the mesh to the current material on the mesh. We're going to get all the materials. That's an array. From this array, we're going to take the first one. We're doing that because each material on the character only has a single material. So we don't have various material zones. If we had that, it would be a problem, but luckily in our case, we only have element 0, so there's only one material coming out of this. So we're going to go and get that out with get a copy that grabs an element from the array that we can specify with this number here. I need the 0th element, which is the first element in the array. And from that, which is now essentially a reference to this current material here, from that, I need to now, there's a kind of a magic note that we have here, which is get, there's something called name get display name. That's it. Get display name. And that gives me a string, literally a string with a reference to this name here. So whatever material the character is currently wearing, this is the name that we're getting out. So what we really want to do now is grab all of this name except for the last character. And that is done because it is already a string. We can use a regular string operation to make that happen. And Unreal Engine exposes that. Most languages have some way of manipulating strings. And what we need here is something called a left chop node. Whoops. Left chop. What left chop does is essentially, it's almost misleading, that name, but it takes the whole string and grabs everything except for so many characters at the end. So I'm going to say leave the string as it is except for the last digit. So give me a new string that comes out of here that contains everything that was in this name minus the last digit. That is then basically coming in here. As soon as I call it, I'll have another string that'll be A, B, or C. That's the thing that I'm going to pass in there. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to append that to whatever comes out of here. And that, as it's a string concatenation technically, so that is happening with the append node. Let's do that. Append, string append. This is the string, everything except for the last character. The last character is coming courtesy of this. So if I pass in an A, whatever the current material is will be A at the end. If I pass in B, it'll be B at the end. If I pass in C, it'll be C at the end. That's kind of awesome. So now we have another string value that comes out of here, and that now needs to give me a new material with a title that I've just made up. Sadly, I know of no way to Unreal Engine to give me a file with a certain name. I mean, there is something that you can do from the asset registry, I believe, that gives you the exact path, but there's an easier way to do this, namely with this map variable. And that's kind of a mini database that I can give not one but two values. It's essentially a key value lookup. It's a very interesting principle. I had never heard of that before. And let me show you how we can use that. We can essentially, we're gonna make a new variable down here, variable, and I'm gonna call that one material map. Just so that I know that this is the map that has string values which are equivalent to actual materials that I can grab out of there. Up here in the top right, I'm not going to make that a Boolean. This is going to be a string variable. And it's not just going to be a string variable. I'm going to click this little icon next to it that if you hover over it, it tells you make this variable a container, array, set, or map of selected type. So we'll go and click on that and select the last item on the list here, which makes this a map or a dictionary. And that now tells me that this variable can be made up of two types. For the first type, we have to choose, not everything will work for the first type, but string will work. I believe an integer will also work, but like a material, that won't work, but a string will work, and that's exactly what we want here. String in, material out. So let's make the second one a material, just like the one that doesn't say anything, much like we had before, material object reference. So this has a very interesting icon now. It's got a two-colored icon here, and that is our map. Before I can add any values here, I need to compile this. So it says here, please compile the blueprint, and let's go and do that. And that gives us an error, that's fine, but under default value, I can now set up my map. I can do this with nodes. I can feed this values and clear values out and whatnot, but we don't really need to do that. All we need here on the right hand side is to make ourselves a little list of items now. I'll add the plus key to make that happen. And the first one is going to be the string that I want to query, and the second one is going to be the material. So let's start maybe there with the material. The first one is going to have to be the material called matte polygon texture O1A, and the second one is going to be O1B, and so forth. So now I need to find the string value that I'd like to give this, which I can just grab from my browser here. So I can just go click the first one, click F2, and then just go Control C to copy that name, escape out of that, or just right click, left click out of that. And then I can add this whole thing into here, hit return, and that is my string. I need to do this 11 more times, so you get a chance to watch this again. And if this doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. I'll keep explaining what this does actually. So I'll make another element here, which I'm going to call, just paste the same thing in with the B at the end. And I'm going to grab this reference here now that is for the second material. Let's see. So that is O1B. All right, then the third one here is going to be the same thing with the C at the end. That'll now be material O1C. I hope this makes sense so far. So I have a variable that when I ask for a string, it will give me a material, and that material I can then put on my character. That's technically how this works. So let's just go and complete this thing. And we're nearly done for the devastating conclusion of the puzzle. There we go. We've got all 12 values in a little map variable here. I'm going to go and make that a bit smaller so I can show you what this actually does, because this is quite clever. This is quite funky. So this is where we're going to get to use this material map now. I'm going to go and drag that in here, get a reference to our material map, and from it, I'm going to go and drag something out, which is the function that I'd like to perform on this thing. In my case, it's a find function. I'm going to leave an article in the description to this video about something that I've written about these so that you can read up on it. This find node is essentially like a little database lookup. It takes one input variable or one input value, which we're going to take from here. That's the string that we've made, that we've kind of manufactured from here, our own new string. And I'm saying, hey, which material does that correspond to? And it will then give us that out at the other end. So then I can go and just pop that into the material of the set material node. This should now compile, I'm thinking. No, it doesn't. Why doesn't it do that? What a shame. Oh, because my target needs to have a connection. Perfect. So yes, that is, we can grab that out of our mesh. Let me go make some room here, actually. Put this down a little bit. Because much like before, we need to grab a reference to our mesh and then pop that in as the target. I could have grabbed another one from here, but I think, this should now compile. Does it? Yes, perfect. So this is a little bit complicated. We're grabbing, let's just go through this one more time, step by step. We're grabbing a reference to our mesh, getting all materials, getting the first item in the array of materials, then we're grabbing its display name. We're chopping most of it off. We're retaining everything except for the last digit. Then we're adding the digit that we're passing into this function to it. Then we're asking our material map, hey, is there a material with that string value that you can provide? And it'll hopefully say yes or no. That is, you can test that here in this Boolean parameter. And we're just hoping it's gonna work. And we're giving that to the material that we want to set on our mesh component. Complex, I know. Let's go back to the switch logic and hook these things up. So this is exactly what we're going to do here. This is the function that we're going to call, and we're going to call that 3 times, and we're just passing it a different value every time. So for key number 5, we're going to use skin tone A. For key number 6, we're going to use skin tone B, and then for not that actually, we're going to use skin C. For that is key number 7. For that, we're going to go and use skin type C. C, there we go. Now, let's see if it works in action, shall we? Let's go play this, make it full screen, walk around, bring up the menu, pick a character like this one. We've already got her, and now we're going to go type 5 is already the pale skin, type 6 is the darker skin, type 7 hasn't quite compiled yet. Okay, we're gonna take care of that. That's just an Unreal Engine thing. So that should now work with every character. If Unreal Engine were to compile the materials, that's slightly unfortunate. It does that sometimes. Let's set this manually. So 4A, 4B, and 4C. Oh, come on. This should work. Sometimes it doesn't do that. And I'm not entirely sure why. I had kind of hoped it wasn't going to do that. It may have to do with the fact that the material isn't quite compiled. I don't really know how it works under the hood, but trust me when I say it doesn't. It's not like that for every character. As he goes and shows, it is like that for every character. Or we've made a mistake. That is also very possible. Yeah, that is also possible. I've had this before, and I'm not entirely sure what to do about it. Eventually it just came good, which is bizarre, but I don't know what I did to make it come good. Do you know what I mean? Because I have seen her in 3 different skin tones and outfits. In fact, yeah, it's just like literally that for everyone. Maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe I've created a wrong skin. No, I'm not. This is definitely that skin tone, isn't it? 3C, 2C. What are you, racist? Crazy, man. B is fine, 4C is not for some reason. Don't know what to tell you. It's a bizarre one. I'm just going to go and try to close Unreal Engine down and see if that works. There we go. Now she has dark skin, and that material on her mesh has actually compiled properly. So yeah, I don't know what that was. It's just an Unreal Engine thing. Let's go play this again. Got away with that one, eh? One of those things. So sometimes it's actually good that that happened on camera, because sometimes it's not you, it's Unreal Engine, and you know, it's an extremely complex project that does all kinds of things. So you know, under the hood. There we go. So now we can go and pick an outfit like the blue outfit, pick a new skin tone, and the outfit stays the same. So that is literally what this whole thing was all about. Rather than just putting a new material in, we're going to have a look what material is currently on there, and then we're changing just the last letter on that. So notice when I pick a new character, they retain that variation. So if I give her, like the policewoman, if I give her the dark skin and then pick a policeman, he retains the dark skin, because we're not changing the material. We're only changing the character mesh now. But we're still technically using, I believe it's 4C now that we're using, aren't we? So yes, that is retained then. And then you can change it to 5, 6, or 7. Pick an outfit, pick a skin tone. Look at that. Fun for the whole family, and then you run around and have lots of fun. So yes, that is the magic of the map variable. And if you haven't quite understood what we did here, let's go through this one more time, just so that we're on the right thing here. Let's go and actually stop this first of all. On our switch logic graph, this was the change outfit logic, in which we're calling a function, passing in a regular predefined material. So that's 1A, 2A, 3A, or 4A. In this section, we're going to go and change the skin tone. And we're doing that the same way. We're pressing a key and we're passing in a value here, A, B, or C, manually into the function that we've written called change skin tone. Now what we do here is, and feel free to comment this out if it helps you better understand what's happening here. We're going to set a material on our mesh. That's what this node does. Let's do this from the end. To get there, we're going to ask our find node, hey, I have a string value here of something. Do we have a material for that? And the material map, our material map variable says, let me have a look. This one, no. This one, no. This one, no. This one, no. This one, yes, that's the one. We have it. Great, we have a material. And that then comes out so it can be set by this node. So that's the material node question. The string value for that is a little bit more complicated. We're having a look at our current mesh in the viewport. We're getting all the current materials on it, which is an array. That's this thing here. We're getting the first element in the array, so at position 0, and we're getting its display name, which happens to be a string. The string is then going to be exactly the same value as whatever this is. So if the character is currently wearing material polygon city texture O2B, that is the exact value that's going to come out of there. We're going to go leave all that intact, chop off the B, append the value that we're passing into this function, which is A, B, or C, replacing that, and that's where that map variable, that material map that we've made, gets the string value from. Any corresponding material that we find gets set on our character. And that is that. I know this was a little complicated and tricky, but we're going to use a similar concept later on when we're going to make the button highlight depending on what character is currently in the viewport, what character the player has selected. So we're going to use a similar way of finding out what character that is depending on a button value at that point. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a lot. If you have any questions, then don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. There's a link in the description to an article in which I'm explaining more about the map variable and some links on the Epic website that will get you more of these notes in case you want to do more with that. In the next episode, we're going to have a look at how we can load a new level in our game so that we don't just run around the gray box. We're going to have a look at loading the day level or loading the night level, depending on what the user selects. Join me for that. Thank you for watching.